Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're diving deep into something that's at the heart of every single business, from the smallest street food stall to the biggest multinational corporation: costs. Understanding costs isn't just for accountants. It has the key to making smart business decisions and figuring out how firms actually behave in the real world. So, grab a notebook and let's get into the nitty-gritty of production costs. First things first, let's define our terms. Every business wants to make a profit, right? And profit is simple. It's your total revenue minus your total cost. Total revenue is the price you sell your product for, multiplied by how many you sell. Total cost is, well, everything you spend to make and sell that product. But here's where it gets interesting. In economics, cost means more than just the money you physically spend. We need to talk about opportunity costs. This is a huge concept. The true cost of anything is what you give up to get it. Let's imagine a talented batik artisan in Yogyakarta. To make her beautiful fabrics, she has explicit costs: the money she spends on dyes, wax, and electricity. Let's say that's 500,000 rupiah per week. These are the costs you'd see on a standard accounting sheet. But what about the costs you don't see? Our artisan is also a skilled designer. If she wasn't running her own batik business, she could be working for a design firm earning to million rupiah per week. That foregone salary is an implicit cost and opportunity cost. She's giving up that income to run her own business. So, her true economic cost is her explicit cost plus her implicit cost, which totals 2.5 million rupiah. Now, let's say she earns 3.5 million rupiah in revenue per week. An accountant would say her profit is 3 million rupiah, which is revenue minus just the explicit costs. But an economist sees it differently. The economic profit is the revenue minus all costs, including the opportunity cost of her time. So her economic profit is 1 million rupiah. This number gives a much more realistic picture of her business's success. It shows that she is, in fact, better off running her own business than taking the design job. Smart business decisions are always based on maximizing economic profit, not just accounting profit. So, how do these costs relate to how much a company actually produces? This brings us to the production function. It's a simple idea that shows the relationship between the inputs you use, like labor and machinery, and the output you get, like finished products. Let's picture a small rice mill in a village. The production function might tell us that with one worker, the mill can process 100 kilograms of rice per day. Add a second worker, and they can process 180 kilograms. With 3 workers, it's 240 kilograms. We can turn this production function into a total cost curve. Let's say each worker costs 100,000 rupiah a day, and the fixed cost of running the mill's equipment is 200,000 rupiah per day. To produce 100 kilograms, the total cost is 1 worker plus the equipment, which is 300,000 rupiah. To produce 180 kilograms, it's 2 workers plus equipment, totaling 400,000 rupiah. And for 240 kilograms, it's 3 workers plus equipment, costing 500,000 rupiah. See how the amount produced directly determines the total cost. Now, let's break down costs even further. We can categorize all costs into 2 types: fixed costs and variable costs. Fixed costs, or FC, are expenses that don't change no matter how much you produce. Think of things like rent for your factory, insurance, or the salary of your office manager. Whether you make 1 t-shirt or 1 million, that rent payment stays the same. Variable costs, or VC, on the other hand, change directly with your level of output. These are costs like raw materials, the electricity used by your machines, or the wages for your production line workers. The more t-shirts you make, the more fabric you need, and the higher your variable costs will be. Your total costs ATC is simply your fixed costs plus your variable costs. From these basic costs, we can derive some incredibly useful metrics: average costs and marginal cost. Average total cost, or ATC, is your total cost divided by the quantity you produce. It tells you the cost per unit. Similarly, average fixed cost is fixed cost per unit, and average variable cost is variable cost per unit. But the real star of the show is marginal cost, or MC. Marginal cost is the increase in total cost from producing just one more unit of output. This is probably the most important cost concept for decision-making. Why? Because rational firms think at the margin. When deciding whether to produce one more item, a manager will compare the marginal cost of producing it to the marginal revenue they lines get from selling it. Let's look at how these costs behave. If you plot them on a graph, you'll see some typical shapes. The marginal cost curve is usually U-shaped. At first, as you hire more workers, they can specialize and become more efficient, so the cost of each additional unit goes down. But eventually, you start to get diminishing returns. The factory gets crowded, workers get in each other's way, and the cost of producing one more unit starts to rise. The average total cost curve is also U-shaped. It's pulled around by the marginal cost. Think of it like your GPA. If your grade in the next class, the marginal grade, is lower than your GPA, it will pull your average down. If it's higher, it will pull your average up. It's the same with costs. When marginal cost is below average total cost, the average is falling. When marginal cost rises above average total cost, it starts pulling the average up. The lowest point of the ATC curve is exactly where it's crossed by the marginal cost curve. This point is called the efficient scale, the quantity of output that minimizes the average total cost. Let's use a textile factory as an example. Imagine its fixed cost is 10 million rupiah. When it produces 100 meters of fabric, its variable cost is 3 million and its total cost is 13 million. The average cost per meter is 130,000 rupiah. Finally, let's talk about time. In economics, we distinguish between the short run and the long run. The short run isn't a specific amount of time, like a month or a year. It's the period during which at least one of your inputs is fixed. Usually, this is your capital, your factory size, your heavy machinery. You can't just build a new factory overnight. In the short run, you can hire more workers or buy more raw materials, but your factory size is stuck. The long run is the period over which all inputs are variable. In the long run, you can build that new factory, install new production lines, or even change your entire production technology. You have complete flexibility. This means that long-run cost curves look different from short-run cost curves. The long-run average total cost curve is essentially an envelope that contains all the possible short-run ATC curves. For any given level of output, a firm will choose the factory size, the short-run curve that gives it the lowest possible cost for that output level. This leads us to the concepts of economies and diseconomies of scale. Economies of scale happen when your long-run average total cost falls as your output increases. Why does this happen? First, specialization. With a larger operation, workers and managers can specialize in specific tasks, becoming much more efficient. Second, you can get bulk discounts on raw materials. Third, you can afford more advanced and efficient technology that's only viable at a larger scale. For example, a small Indonesian auto parts supplier might see its costs per unit drop dramatically as it grows and invests in robotic assembly lines. But bigger isn't always better. Eventually, a firm can get so large that it starts to experience diseconomies of scale, where the long-run average total cost actually starts to rise as output increases. This is usually due to coordination and management problems. In a massive company spread across multiple provinces, communication can break down. Bureaucracy can slow down decision-making, and it becomes harder to maintain the company culture and motivate employees. The nimble startup becomes a slow-moving giant. In between, a firm might experience constant returns to scale, where its long-run average cost stays flat as production increases. Understanding where your firm is on this curve, whether it should grow to achieve economies of scale or perhaps downsize to avoid diseconomies, is a key strategic decision for any business leader. And that's a wrap on the costs of production. We've covered opportunity costs, the production function, fixed versus variable costs, marginal costs, and the difference between the short run and the long run. These concepts are the building blocks for understanding how firms make decisions about pricing and quantity, which we'll cover in future videos. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this helpful, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next lesson. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. See you next time.